at a pivotal point in this semi-final of the Championship Lightweight Single Sculls. Just see that the race number 318 has also begun, the second semi-final of this event. Edinburgh University, Laura McDonald on the Berkshire Station, and Macro of Bath University on the Buckinghamshire Station. McDonald, no stranger to this Henley Women's Regatta course. I know that she's been a victor here before and a well-known name on the student rowing scene. But at the moment, not having the best of the two starts, it looks like Macro of Bath University has really jumped out to establish herself as the leading contender in this semi-final.
Absolutely, Macro has actually opened up clear water. Still got quite a high stroke rate there. Moving ahead, making the very most of that fast start that that she had. McDonald stroking at 39. We've got Macro stroking at 33, so very efficient stroking. Looks like Macro has settled down into her race pace and very confident that she's established a lead. And let's see, as she keeps an eye on McDonald, can she hold that? As you said, for some of the other races, these rowers, they're not looking to give all their energy. They need to save some, keep some in the bag for later in the day when they've got more races to come. But Macro looking very comfortable as they approach the commentary box.
Yeah, super race actually from Pellerman in the last semi-final. She just dismantled the continued efforts of Perry to secure her passage through to the final of the Championship Lightweight Single Sculls. And here Macro just dealing with some sea-like wash there, having to navigate her scull over a few waves, but at the moment really sculling very well. I'm sure Laura McDonald would not have expected this, or if she did, she hasn't responded in a way that suggests that she had any prior anticipation. Macro just moving down on the Buckinghamshire Station, some 2, maybe even 3 lengths clear of McDonald of Edinburgh University.
And Macro stroking at 31, so she's actually dropped her rate slightly, but still keeping a great lead over McDonald from Edinburgh University. McDonald stroking at 34, so doing her very best to stay in contention in this race. And a fine example of how a high stroke rate doesn't necessarily make the boat go faster. Technique is so important in this sport, and Macro seems to have mastered her technique very well, with a lower stroke rate but very efficient. She needs to just look at her course. She's heading towards the boom, just adjusting slightly to come away off the boom there from the buck station. But rowing a good race, very composed.
Yeah, well-established sculler Macro of Bath University, winner of Tier 2 Women's Single Sculls at the Met, and potentially a very capable opponent for Pellerman from Belgium in the final of the Championship Lightweight Single Sculls to come later on this afternoon. She's sculling really well and has done right from the off. Her start was ferocious, and the middle race pace has just continued that trend in being really calm, really mature. And as you say, Sheila, sculling actually really well. Nice straight arms, allowing the power to go through the legs, not through the breakage of any sort of joints in the arms. And she hasn't allowed Laura McDonald to sniff.
No, she's kept her at bay, and lovely to see that very smooth stroke, so not disrupting the balance or the course of the boat at all. Just gliding through the water. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep, Bath University Macro leading race 318, 319 now underway. Championship lightweight pairs. Newcastle University up against Sydney University from Australia. Newcastle on the Berkshire Station and Sydney University on the Buckinghamshire Station. Sydney, of course, regular visitors to the Henley Reach, both at the Royal and the Women's Regatta. I know they've got 3 or 4 crews entered into the Royal in a couple of weeks' time. I think they are from Sydney Rowing Club as opposed to Sydney University, but I imagine the two clubs have a lot to do with each other at the moment. Newcastle, although they are somewhat down the middle of the river, enjoying a slight lead as the two crews leave Temple Island behind.
Indeed they are. It's a wonderful event, I think, lightweight pairs. Because in a way it's almost more exposed than being in a single scull, because if you're out of balance, you've only got one blade on either side, that's right, if it's out of balance in any way, then you know immediately what's going to happen. Because you'll immediately just shift from one side to the other. But this is the creme de la creme of the lightweight pairs division. We're seeing here Newcastle's on your left, Sydney on your right in that bottom picture. Just seeing at the top there as well. Macro from Bath University. What a final that's going to be against Evelyn Pellerman of Ghent. Showing real composure there. But back in the bottom, yeah, it's interesting start to this race for Newcastle, keeping it up, keeping the intensity up over the visitors from Australia.
Yeah, Newcastle, of course, will be determined not to fall out of this competition at the hands of overseas opposition. Equally, I imagine Sydney will not want to go home any earlier than is strictly necessary. At the moment, Newcastle definitely looking a little bit more fluid, a little bit more technically adept at this stage as they come past us at the barrier. A little bit of a crab there from the Sydney University girls, but they've recovered it well. Just seems to be a bit more aggressive with their stroke. Sydney, I'm not quite sure if that's a deliberate thing, just digging the blades in a bit more and trying to drive the boat through the water as opposed to letting it glide. As the two crews pass the barrier, it's Newcastle with a slightly lower stroke rate who continue to lead this and stretch out to around a length.
It's funny you should say that, actually. At one point there, I felt like when I measured it, they both appeared to be at 37, but it just shows you how rowing can look so similar, but it can actually be so different in certain ways. It's almost they're almost attacking the catch, the Australian crew, racing right up to it to try and get the maximum speed of their boat as quickly as possible, but Newcastle just letting the boat do a lot of the work itself, if you have to argue. And it's actually them that are benefiting from it at this lightweight stage. It's about boat management, it's about speed management at this level, keeping it efficient because you can afford a lot of pace, especially in pairs at this point. These boats are very delicate to any little movements that you make. Responsive is the word I'm looking for, thank you. But it is Newcastle coming ahead at the moment. They're managing this race very well.
Yeah, Newcastle enjoying their road down the course. Interesting point actually raised by Sheila in that Sydney University will likely have had a whole season already of racing. Of course, their national championships are in April and March, I think, even maybe as early as that. So whenever they come to Henley, they have to re-taper and reprogram their systems to make sure that they're on top form. Whereas Newcastle and some of the British crews will have made sure that Henley is the focus of their attentions, and that perhaps showing here as Newcastle continues to row away, looking very impressive and leading Sydney University by what looks like a couple of lengths now.
It is. They're really just stretching it out there, keeping it long and strong. And talked about unity earlier today. These whales working in sync, working perfectly together. See the communication between the two as well. That's what it's all about. Rowing's all about communication as well. Crews are talking to each other all the time, when to put in pushes, how far they are from the opposition, where they are on the course. See them just taking the rates down a couple of pips actually from where they were earlier. And the fact that we can't even see Sydney in the picture at the moment, or there they are now. And they're still keeping up that fast rate, trying to get as many strokes in as possible, going for there's quantity in terms of strokes that they put in. Maybe a little bit of disunity in certain strokes, but just seeing the contrast in styles there shows that Newcastle's still ahead though, likely maybe to go through in this final third.
Yeah, it looks like harder work from the Sydney University crew. But at the moment, Newcastle leading that one, moved back down to the start for race 3-2-0. Cambridge University Women's Boat Club on the Berkshire station and Tideway Scullers School on the Buckinghamshire station. Both crews getting away reasonably cleanly. No early dramas. You can just see Newcastle there reaching the conclusion of their semi-final. They look like they've probably secured reasonably safe passage through to the final, winding down in the last few strokes. Just able to enjoy themselves as they came through the regatta enclosure. But we can see there in race 3-2-0, Tideway Sculler School have really jumped the gun and have stepped out ahead of Cambridge, leading by a length already.
Well, they've gone like a bullet, like you say. They've got very 40 at the moment, smashing the strokes out. But maybe arguably Cambridge got the better of the early strokes, but Tideway have lengthened it out. Done really well there. You can see Cambridge there keeping the rate high as well, about 38. Keeping it strong. We talk about Tideway, of course, having experience on that big stretch down in London. We have to argue Cambridge women were down there back in April, and they always practice like the men do, doing their practice stages. So both have experience on varying types of water on this beautiful morning on the calm waters. Tideway taking full advantage right now.
Yeah, Scullers winners of the pair at Ghent back in April, and regular racers on the domestic scene as well, just making their way down towards our fixed commentary position just shy of the barrier. At the moment, this one is all about the Tideway Sculler School, which is not a surprise. If you do follow the domestic rowing circuit, you will hear that name with ever-increasing frequency. They're one of the premier high-performance centres in the UK, and showing that here as they lead Cambridge University Women's Boat Club. Themselves no pushovers, of course, by a couple of lengths, perhaps. Yeah, it looks like maybe a length and a half.
I think so. Might even be looking at going out to 2 lengths here at this point. Yeah, maybe between length 3/4 and 2. As you say, Cambridge not giving up. Still early days at this point. Maybe a little bit of a splash there from the stroke for Tideway Scullers, which is part of the catch though. Attacking the catch, attacking the finish, attacking every part of this race now. Coming up to Barn Bar, really taking control at the moment. See these beautiful drone shots as well, which we are very lucky to have here up at the commentary control. Gives you a real perspective on, well, just the perfect straightness of this course, you have to argue. But it also points out as well, there is an argument to be had about the difference in water for certain parts of this race as well. Some people argue, as you come out of Temple Island, you're on the left side of the river, so there's certain parts of water. But when you come up to the regatta enclosures, these crews you're coming up towards the mill, so there are different parts. Something that does have to be managed by these crews, especially at this level. We're looking at championship lightweight pairs here at Henley Women's Regatta 2019.
Yeah, perhaps those marginal things can make a difference when the crews are tightly wound. But at the moment, Scullers in control of their semi-final of the championship lightweight pairs. And so we move back to the start for race 3-1, Nottingham University and Princeton University of the United States of America on Berkshire and Buckinghamshire stations respectively for the championship lightweight double sculls. So a full roster of lightweight racing pairs, singles and doubles, ending with the doubles. Princeton there on the right of your shot, bottom left of your screen, up against Nottingham University, who actually look like they've had perhaps the better of the two starts, although it is hard to gauge at this stage. Yeah, I think Nottingham
look like they're taking a slight lead as they pass the end of Temple Island. Oh, quite a big lead. That's a good shot, isn't it, for us to see. I'm still stroking quite high there, establishing their lead. Sometimes that's a great sort of psychological advantage to be in the lead at the end of Temple Island. I know that some crews actually focus on that and then they settle down into their race pace. But Princeton still in contention here. Nice long draw of those blades, getting a bit close to the boom so they can see them adjusting slightly from that great drone shot. Don't look like they're going to make a move just yet though on Nottingham, but they need to think about doing something soon.
Yeah, Princeton been caught napping somewhat here actually. Nottingham have just driven out of the start and given themselves a bit of breathing space as they come down past us. Nearly, well, it looks like actually over, probably near about around 2 lengths.
Yeah, stretching it out there, stretching it out and making heavy weather of this. So they need to get a real focus and put some pressure on this Nottingham University team that are extending their lead as they go down the course, just past the barrier now and looking very comfortable and controlling this race from their perspective.
Yeah, Nottingham continue to lead this one, race 3-2-1. And if you are just joining us here, welcome. This is our live coverage of the Sunday of Henley Women's Regatta. You're watching race 3-2-1, the Championship Lightweight Doubles. Nottingham University currently leading Princeton University, having been in that position since very early days. Impressive rowing actually from these two girls. Sculling well, nice and long. Making sure that the boat is connected at the front end and just propelling it through the water. And of course it will be a real feather in their cap if they can knock out overseas opposition in the form of Princeton, one of the foremost collegiate rowing programs in the world.
Yeah, interesting to see. And we can still see that the crews, there's quite a lot of communication going on there, so they are fine-tuning their performance as they move down the course. Nottingham University not taking anything for granted at this stage, so much respect to their opponents from Princeton University USA. They're keeping the pressure on, trying to maintain their lead. I'm sure we'll get a shot in a moment just to see how much of a lead they are still holding.
Comfortable. I think they've established control over this race by the looks of things. The rate's still high though, intensity hasn't come off at all.
So neither crew letting the other one off the hook, not just yet. It's great to see this level of competitiveness, as we would expect in a championship race.
So race 3-2-1 reaching its final closing stages. Nottingham University have led Princeton right from the off, and although Princeton actually have mounted something of a late charge, Nottingham University do cross the line in their semi-final of the Championship Lightweight Doubles ahead and securing passage through to the final. So we move back to the start. Race 3-2-2. Flag has just gone down. Contest between Upper Thames Rowing Club on the Berkshire Station and the University of Tulsa A crew from the United States of America on the Buckinghamshire Station. Tulsa looking like they got the better of the opening 10 strokes there, but Upper Thames know this course very well. Of course, boat just along the river from where we are now, and will have competed numerous times on their Henley reach. Tulsa though, aggressive and really focused at the start. Actually, they need to probably watch their steering a little bit. They're right over in the middle of the river, but they have already established around a length lead on Upper Thames. Delighted to be joined by Greg Davies. Thank you to Sheila and to Warren for all their help this morning. Greg and Ed on the commentary now with me until around 11:45. Greg, excited for finals day?
Oh, it's always a great day, isn't it? You just come down here and the sun's shining, which always helps. But it's a fantastic day in sport in the UK today. So, you know, if you're thinking of you haven't got anything to do today and you're living in the Henley area, there's really only one place to be. Come down to the Henley stretch here. There's plenty going on. Not only can you watch world-class rowing and sculling, but there's plenty of pop-up tents here, plenty to eat, refreshments, and it'll be just a lovely day to come and watch these international athletes. A world-class event just on your doorstep. A great drone shot there. I don't think the umpire has had to get involved yet, Tom, but that was it was interesting at the start, wasn't it? Both crews just being a little wayward with their steering. But now, as we can see, as they come to our commentary point here, it is University of Tulsa that have the advantage. As Tom was saying, they're much more aggressive really off the start. Perhaps caught Upper Thames napping a little bit. Upper Thames will know this stretch of the river really, really well, because in about 30 seconds they'll be going past their clubhouse. There's Tulsa now with a 2-length lead and sculling very, very well.
Yeah, Tulsa certainly more aggressive off the start, and perhaps a little more aggressive with their line as well. They have tended to dominate the middle of the river, which I'm not sure if that's deliberate, but if you look at where they are in relation to the two sides of booms, they're certainly making full and frank use of the Henley reach. And actually not making things easy for themselves, because they're probably rowing an extra 100 metres by doing this. But Upper Thames sticking religiously to their line and unable at the moment to make any sort of impact on the Tulsa crew, who just the intensity is so high. I don't think it's a possibility to actually infect that from an Upper Thames perspective. They're just continuing to scull away from them, Tulsa, and looking like sure bets at the moment for passage through to the final.
I don't think there's much that Upper Thames can do about this now. It's a great shot of the Tulsa University there. They're relaxed, nice and long, and they're just watching Upper Thames, just covering any move that they might make. But they're going to be wanting to conserve energy now, so just making sure they get to the finish without any mistakes at all.
Surprising actually to see two lightweight events, championship lightweight doubles. Both of these races that we've just seen haven't been particularly close, which is contradictory to what we usually expect from a lightweight category. Nonetheless, University of Tulsa continuing to lead Upper Thames, and so we move back to the start for race 3-2-3, and that is a semi-final of the Junior 16 coxed fours. Kent School of the United States of America right over in the middle of the river, being warned by the umpire up against Headington School, putting Headington under significant pressure and actually boxing them in somewhat. Umpire making sure that Kent are fully aware that they are not in the right part of the river here.
And they have responded there. Kent School, I think they quite fancy themselves here. Actually, they won at Reading last week. This 4 is part of an 8 that medalled in the North American Championships, and they only ever come over if they're serious about their chances. But Headington, look there, Tom, they've come right back at them. They've put a big push in now, and Headington making sure that they are really going to make a race of this. This is going to be a great race, I think.
Yeah, Headington choosing to enter the bow 4 of their Junior 16-8, which placed second just behind Henley at the National Schools Regatta. So I imagine they might be placing the stern 4 in the quad, which we might well see later today. But at the moment, Kent School just having the better of the opening exchanges as they leave the quarter-mile mark behind and stride on down towards us at the barrier. Not much to choose between them, though.
No, this is going to be a really good race, and it's this middle part of the race now from... That's us in that white kind of caravan there, from here up until Upper Thames Clubhouse. This is where the race is going to be won, and there's a big cat and mouse at the moment, isn't it? Because Kent went out really, really strongly and had about half a length up on Headington. Headington noticed that and put a big push in, and I've come back to about quarter of a length, something like this. This could be a terrific, terrific race. Kent beating Kingston yesterday, and Headington beating Marlow. They're looking for a place in the final, and in the other side it's Marlow again against Tideway Scullers. So this is going to be a great, great race. So still about half a length, quarter of a length now. Headington, you can see, just upping their rate a bit, just trying to get back on track. They're looking a little more rushed than Kent. Kent staying nice and long. I think they've probably got something left in the tank if Headington will push on them.
Yeah, Kent being warned again for their steering. You can see they're just over a little bit in the middle of the river. putting Headington under perhaps more pressure than is necessary. But credit to Kent here, they've actually held off the advances of Headington to this point. It remains to be seen whether or not they've used all the gas they have in their tank in doing so. Headington, of course, fierce racers and always able to mount a late charge.
Well, what do you reckon, Tom? Do you reckon that's naughtiness from the Kent Cox, or just not knowing the course?
I'd imagine it's the latter at this stage, I think.
It's more interesting if it's the former, though, isn't it?
Well, it is. We can speculate, but I think, from my perspective, I wouldn't be playing that game, not if I was only half a length up on my opposition.
Yeah, well, it's early morning, the umpires aren't grumpy yet, so I don't know.
Leniency. Well, Kent continuing to lead, but I don't know how much room they really have left to breathe. Headington still sort of bearing down on them.
Yeah, it's now actually that Headington are going to have to get back on track as they're approaching the time for a sprint finish.
I'm just watching Headington. I'm thinking their rate could come up a little bit.
I think I agree with you.
I think there needs to be a bit more intensity. They need to start their sprint now, because actually Kent are looking a bit more comfortable now. They're out to 3/4 of a length. And there you go, a little response there from Kent. You can see the rate just went up a couple of pips and they're starting to move on. And actually, if Kent can get out to a length at this stage, I think that's probably game over from Headington's perspective.
I mean, Kent will know that they've been in a race. Their shoulders, if you look at their shoulders there, they're pretty tight. So they're not relaxing at all. And though we can't see it, Headington will be in the shot just away from them. So Kent, we think, have pulled away, perhaps to a length. There you go, they're Headington responding now. They've upped the rate, but is it too late? Here we go, they're winding it up now. Look at the Kent Cox having a wee look over. Is certainly aware of the presence there.
Yeah, we'll keep one eye on what's happening there in 3-2-3, because you can see Kent just winding it up to try and stave off the advances of Headington. But race 3-2-4 is underway. Marlow on the Berkshire station and Tideway Sculls School on the Buckinghamshire station. And Marlow have really jumped out there. Actually, they've taken the impetus in their semi-final. No surprise to see these two crews featuring highly. We've already seen several representatives of the respective clubs in different events. You can just see there, the top right of your picture, Kent crossing the line a length clear of Headington, securing passage through to the final of the Junior 16 Cox 4s. So who will they face in the final? It's between Marlow and Tideway Sculls School.
So it's Marlow on the Berkshire station. That's the towpath side of it. They've had the better of the start, steering a lot better this time. And they've gone to about, you say there, 3/4 of a length lead already at the top of the island. So really aggressive starting from Marlow, looking to front load this race and to really shock Tideway Sculls into submission. Yeah, so Tideway are going to have to work hard now, right now, if they want to stay in this race, because if you're a length up at this stage, there's the quarter mile mark, it's very difficult now to come back. So Tideway have got to work really hard to get back onto Marlow. Now, what we don't know, Tom, is whether Marlow in that first 200 metres, 250 metres, how much energy they've used, and can they maintain that? And are Tideways, maybe they've got a race plan that's going to push in the middle of the race. They've certainly settled down now, Tideways, and rowing really, really well. But it's still a length advantage to Marlow.
Well, it begs the question, doesn't it, Greg, as to whether or not race plans become redundant when you're over a length down at Henley. Because the match racing format of it means that if you lose sight and earshot of your opponent, race plans go out the window. It's almost impossible to execute one when you're sort of a length or two
absolutely.
down.
The only, and particularly with this length of race, the only race plan you've got really is to have a good start, and then whether to push again after you settle or just settle into a rhythm. Now, some crews will come off the start, go up to about 41, 42, settle down to 36, and then immediately put a push in just to try and get that length advantage. And if they do that and the other crew let them, you get what we're seeing here. So the final of this J16 coxed fours is at 2:10 today, and if nothing changes, it looks as though it's going to be Britain against America, which it always brings a little bit more edge to it, I suspect.
Yeah, Marlow look, they're in control actually. And I think watching this Marlow crew, I think they're going to give, if they do manage to progress through to the final, Kent a race and a half.
Yeah, I think it'll be a
actually.
super race.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe this one as done and dusted. Tideway Scull is still very much in contention, and Marlow have not really moved on from the length margin that they established at the barrier, but the playing cards are certainly with Marlow at the moment, and it depends what ace Tideway Scullers have left to play.
Great shot. Great shot there of Marlow, just stretching out that lead over Tideway as they progress into the latter stages of this race. Looking quite comfortable, but not letting go of that power they secured in the first few strokes off of Temple Island. Really important they continue to dominate this race and show their likely opposition later this afternoon, Kent School. They've got plenty of fight in them.
So as we watch Marlow make their way down the course, leading Tideway Sculler School in the second semi-final of the Junior 16 coxed fours, we move back to the start for race 325, Aspirational Lightweight Single Sculls, Oxford University Lightweight Women's Rowing Club, Hoff on the Berkshire station, and Surrey University Wedgwood on the Buckinghamshire station. Of course, lightweight athletes pegged at the same weight, so there's very little physical difference between them. It's all about the technical capacity and sort of ability to withstand the pain. And you can see there the sculler from Surrey, Wedgwood, has moved out to around a length already as they leave Temple Island.
Always really exciting, these lightweight races. As I said a moment ago, the athletes limited to the weight they can be, meaning that often they come down to the wire. The athletes only separated by their ability to row a good race and execute a good race plan. Just see the sculler there, Wedgwood from Surrey University being warned by the umpire back onto her station